A shadow spreads across the Highlands, and a single cry in the night is about to change the entire Outlander universe forever. Season 2 of Blood of My Blood is shaping up to be the moment where destinies collide, secrets explode, and the birth of one boy, Jamie Fraser, rewrites every future we thought we knew. The second season of Blood of My Blood begins with a world on the edge of chaos. Brian and Ellen have finally reunited, but peace lasts only a heartbeat. Word of the Jacobite Rising spreads like wildfire across the Highlands, and suddenly every path ahead is paved with danger. Brian doesn't hesitate. The moment he hears the call to arms, he steps forward, ready to fight for honor, family, and the future he's only just started to build with Ellen. But the wars that brought Claire and Jamie endless heartbreak are now closing in on Brian and Ellen too. They're not only fugitives, they are targets for the Mackenzies, the Grants, and even Brian's father, Simon Fraser. All three want something from Brian. All three believe he still owes them. And now, all three are preparing for war. The tension between the clans becomes unbearable when word spreads that Malcolm's uncle, the Lord of the Grants, is preparing to seek revenge. His pride was already wounded last season, and with the Rising giving him the perfect excuse, he wants blood. Malcolm is helpless. This revenge threatens to destroy everything, but the only person who can stand between the clans is his sister, Mora. Mora's marriage to Dual gives her unexpected power. With one foot in each house, she becomes the bridge everyone desperately needs. And if the clans are to survive the fury of the coming war, she'll have to convince her uncle that revenge must wait. Their enemy isn't Brian. It isn't Ellen. It's the English army marching north. Still, even if Mora succeeds, there's someone else whose decisions could reshape everything. Mert. Our soft-hearted warrior finds himself torn between loyalty and love. He knows Brian is heading into danger, and he knows the Mackenzies won't forget the insult of losing Ellen to Brian. This season, Mert becomes the quiet force trying to keep everyone alive. He'll move between clans, negotiating, calming tempers, and trying to prevent a war within a war. But peace never comes easily in the Fraser world. And while the clans collide, a darker danger rises in the shadows. Julia and young William may not make it home. Their gemstones are gone, and without them, the time passage might not open for them at all. Archbug knows this. Simon Fraser knows this. And if Julia is captured, everything she thought she knew about her future will shatter. Simon still believes William is his son. And if he gets hold of the child, there's no limit to what he'll do. That's where the story takes its darkest turn. If Julia can't escape, if Archbug delivers her to Simon, Brian and Ellen might become the only two people willing to risk everything to save her, and the young William she carries. But destiny has a strange way of bringing stories together. Brian and Ellen's first child is destined to be William, the boy who, according to the old stories, dies at just 11 years old. But what if history reveals a shocking twist? What if Julia asks Brian and Ellen to take her William and raise him as their own until she can return? A stolen child, a desperate mother, and a future hanging by a thread. It's a theory that could change everything. And while all of this danger builds around them, Ellen begins feeling the quiet, trembling signs of a new life growing inside her. A life the world knows well. A life that will shape everything that happens in Outlander. The birth of Jamie Fraser is coming, but the war might take Brian before he ever meets his son. And that is where the true emotional weight of Season 2 begins. The danger for Julia and William grows with every passing moment. Deep in the forests of the Highlands, Archbug keeps watch, waiting for the perfect time to deliver them to Simon Fraser. Julia tries again and again to open the stones, but without gemstones, the air remains silent. No light, no sound, no doorway to safety. Panic starts to settle in, but she forces herself to stay strong for William. She knows Henry will return for her. She knows Brian and Ellen would never abandon her. But fear has a way of creeping into every corner of the mind when the world grows dark. Meanwhile, Simon prepares for revenge. The betrayal he felt from Julia burns hotter than ever, But the one thing keeping his cruelty alive is his obsession with young William. He still believes William is his child, and the thought of losing him pushes him into a dangerous state. Season 2 might reveal the coldest, most ruthless version of Simon Fraser we've ever seen. With Archbug closing in, Julia's only hope lies in Brian and Ellen. And in one of the most emotional arcs this season, Brian finds himself torn between the demands of war and the duty to protect his family, both the one he has and the one fate has tied to him. The Jacobite Rising pulls him away, but the moment he learns Julia and William are missing, he's ready to defy orders. This is where Mert re-enters the story with quiet strength. He convinces Brian that running blindly would only end in death. Instead, Mert starts connecting clues, speaking to travelers, scouts, and anyone who might know where Archbug is hiding. Mert becomes Brian's guide, and in secret, he begins building a rescue plan that could spark conflict between clans once again. While Brian and Mert navigate danger, Ellen faces her own emotional battle. She knows Brian must fight in the Rising, but she also knows her family may fall apart if Julia and William are lost. The early symptoms of pregnancy, fear, uncertainty, hope, make everything harder. Ellen is at war on two fronts, the one outside and the one inside her heart. Still, Ellen refuses to remain helpless. She goes to Mora and demands help from the Grants. Mora, already struggling to calm her revenge-driven uncle, now has another impossible task. But she agrees because she sees something bigger happening, something that could bind the Fraser, Mackenzie, and Grant families together like never before. Mora secretly sends scouts into the hills to track Archbug. If her uncle finds out she helped Brian's family, she risks losing everything, including her new marriage. But Mora's loyalty isn't to her uncle anymore. It's to the fragile peace she's trying to create and to the future she senses is coming. By now, the Rising grows louder. Clans gather, swords are sharpened, and the first battles loom on the horizon. Brian feels the pressure closing in from all sides. Should he fight beside the Jacobites, or should he abandon the cause long enough to save Julia and William? Every decision he makes now comes with consequences that could follow him for generations. And then comes the moment that changes everything. Julia is finally captured. Archbug takes her straight to Simon Fraser's camp, delivering her like a prize trophy. Simon's fury is frightening. Julia begs him to understand, to listen, but Simon only cares about William. And when he holds the child in his arms, convinced he is claiming his own bloodline, the tone of the story shifts into something darker and colder. Julia realizes she may not escape this time. She may spend the rest of the Rising imprisoned, but she refuses to let William become Simon's pawn. She whispers a desperate request to Brian when she sees him during the rescue attempt. Take him. Keep him safe. Even if I don't return. This heartbreaking plea sets the foundation for one of the biggest twists in the entire Outlander universe. Brian and Ellen may become the parents of two boys, their own unborn child and Julia's William. As the Rising begins its first violent clash, families are torn apart, alliances are tested, and destinies begin to shift in ways no one can fully see yet. But a storm far more personal than war is coming next, because Jamie Fraser is about to enter the world at the worst possible moment. War spreads across the Highlands like a relentless storm, and Brian finds himself trapped between two impossible duties, fighting in the Jacobite Rising or protecting the fragile family fate has placed in his hands. The clash between the clans and the English grows louder every day, and Brian's absence weighs heavily on Ellen, whose strength is stretched thin as she faces danger, uncertainty, and the growing life inside her. Ellen tries to stay strong, but the pressure around her keeps building. The Mackenzies watch her every move with suspicion. The Grants walk a thin line between alliance and revenge, and rumors of Julia's capture reach her long before Brian does. Each piece of news cuts deeper than before. She knows Brian is fighting, rescuing, leading, while she is left behind in a world growing colder around her. And yet, she holds on to hope because she can feel the heartbeat of her child, the child who will one day become Jamie Fraser. But hope is tested again when word spreads that Julia may never return, and that William might be raised by Brian and Ellen for far longer than anyone expected. Ellen accepts the responsibility in silence, but she knows the risk. 2 children in her care, a war outside her door, and a husband whose life hangs by a thread every time he steps onto the battlefield. Still, Ellen refuses to hide. She reaches out to Maura again, asking for protection, and Maura responds without hesitation. She positions guards near Ellen discreetly, ensuring that no threat, neither clan nor soldier, can approach unnoticed. Meanwhile, Brian and Mert continue their dangerous mission behind the lines. They're hunted by Simon Fraser's men, yet they refuse to give up. Julia's last desperate request echoes in Brian's mind. Every step he takes now is driven by the promise he silently made to protect her child, to shield William from Simon's growing cruelty, and to bring him home to Ellen. As the rising grows bloodier, Simon's obsession begins to twist into something new and frightening. Raising William is not enough anymore. He wants control, and most importantly, he wants a legacy he can shape from the cradle. Julia is kept under harsh watch, and the chances of escape grow smaller each day. She holds onto one image: William safe in Ellen's arms, far away from Simon's madness. And then, in the midst of war, loss, and fear, destiny chooses the most cruel timing. Ellen goes into labor. The sky turns gray as Ellen clutches the edge of a wooden table, her breath sharp, the pain hitting her in waves. She is surrounded by only a few trusted women, with Maura guarding the door, ready to fight anyone who threatens the fragile moment unfolding inside. Outside, the distant thunder of cannons echoes through the valley. Every cry from Ellen carries the weight of generations, of the tragedies yet to come, and of the hero who is just moments away from entering the world. And in a small, dimly lit room, the future of Outlander is born. Jamie Fraser takes his first breath, not in peace, not in safety, but in a world tearing itself apart. His life begins in the heart of danger, a fitting beginning for the man who will one day become the soul of the Highlands. But joy is quickly overshadowed by terror. Brian is still on the battlefield. Ellen cannot reach him, and the Grants, sensing weakness, move closer to taking the child as leverage. Maura stands firm, warning her uncle that if he takes even one step toward that door, he will create a war that will destroy their family forever. For the first time, he hesitates. Far away, Brian survives another fierce battle and finally hears the news. Ellen has given birth. Exhausted, wounded, and covered in the dirt of war, he makes the desperate journey back home. He arrives at night, breathless, terrified, and expecting chaos. But instead, he walks into a quiet room where Ellen holds a small bundle to her chest. The moment Brian sees his son, the world around him seems to stop. He touches Jamie's tiny hand, and every sacrifice suddenly feels worth it. For a moment, the war disappears. The clans disappear. Even Julia's tragedy fades away. There is only the 3 of them and the child who will one day become a legend. But peace never lasts long in this world. Brian knows he must return to the Rising. He knows Julia is still in danger. And he knows Simon Fraser is preparing his next move, driven by fury and obsession. Season 2 will leave us with a storm still raging, a family divided, and 2 children, Jamie and William, whose destinies are now tied together in ways no one expected. Because one was born into chaos, and the other was delivered into the arms of the Frasers by pure fate. Together, they may shape the future of the Highlands. But only if Brian and Ellen can survive the war that threatens to tear their world apart.